All right, welcome back. Episode 203 of Chaotically Intolerant. We are back after a week break. Just couldn't get one in last week, so we're back. We are going to be talking baseball all show. We thought about maybe covering the draft, but we want to stick with baseball this time. We talk a lot of football once football season comes around. So we're just going to stick with baseball. Before, we get into that, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, 4 teams within 2.5 games right now in that division. I know it's April. I know it's, 23, 24 games into the schedule for all 4 of those teams, but it's really going to be a tight race. And, San Diego 12-1 at home, Dodgers 10-2 at home. All these teams have faced a good number of plus 500 teams. So, they're already kind of getting battle tested. And then you mentioned the Cubs. I mean, they just had a series with Arizona. They had a game where the 2 teams combined for 21 runs over the last 3 innings, I think. So they had a 13-11 win. They beat the Dodgers 11-10 last night. They've been a riot to watch. It's been a lot of fun. I think they're the best team in the Central. I mean, Milwaukee's figured it out after a bad start, and it doesn't look like anyone else is going to really challenge the Cubs in that division. So, the NL is shaping up to be once again, kind of a Captain Obvious statement, but the much stronger league where, feels like whoever comes out of that league, I mean, obviously if the Dodgers come out, they're going to be the consensus, favorite in the World Series, no matter who they face. And then you figure anybody that may get through the Dodgers to get to the World Series in the NL, even if let's say they maybe avoid playing them or whatever, is going to be, I think, the favorite. I mean, whether it's, because I think you can make the case that the top 3 or 4 teams in baseball, at least, are all in the National League. I mean, you got to I think you may have to throw the Mets into that discussion. I mean, the Phillies are kind of banged up. Yeah. Yeah. I think the Phillies were off to a good start, but now they may be without Christopher Sanchez, who had forearm tightness, and Aaron Nola hasn't pitched well. So we'll see. But the NL is stacked. Yeah. I mean, Lindor's hitting and Soto's not. Now, imagine if Soto starts hitting, I mean, the fact that the Mets are 17-7 with Juan Soto putting up for him anyway, very subpar numbers, 24 games into the season. Yeah, the Mets pitching holds up. I mean, the bullpen is, it seems like always we're talking, oh my God, the Mets bullpen. But if they can, at least be average, right? Bullpens tend to be the easiest things to fix. It's hard to get good starting pitching at the deadline, getting an impact bat. But, you throw a couple of good relievers in there, and it's not even just about, can a reliever come in and be good, but can he be pretty good and stabilize and put other guys in roles where they're going to be successful? Mm-hmm. Leads the team in homers, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're in the top 10 in most offensive categories as a team. They're kind of middle of the pack in terms of home runs. And they're kind of middle of the pack right now in terms of their pitching. But they have the makings of an offense that can score a lot of runs. And you start thinking about the summer months at Fenway Park when the ball's really flying. And so Garrett Crochet right now is the favorite, the betting favorite for Cy Young. Understandably, he's got a 1.13 ERA and 5 starts. The question is what other guys are going to step up in terms of starters, and they got Brian Bayo back, which was big. Yeah, they are. I mean, I don't know how much they can count on guys like Sean Newcomb and Richard Fitz, to stabilize. And Tanner Houck has really struggled early in the year. I mean, not to say that he keeps right. And then, what do you get from the bullpen, which has been, they're 22nd right now in bullpen ERA, just above my Orioles, 4.47. How trustworthy is Chapman as the closer, and Slayton. Yeah. Love those guys. Love those, Max Scherzer types, but they call it Scherz Day when he would pitch. So, yeah, I think the Red Sox, I mean, it's hard to say right now who's the clear-cut favorite in the AL East. I mean, the Yankees obviously record-wise, and even without Garrett Cole, they're getting a great start to the season from Max Fried. We know they're hitting. Aaron Judge is hitting 411. I mean, he's not going to hit 400 this year. I'll go on a limb and say that. But we know they can. What's that? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we know they can hit. We know they're going to score runs too. And we know that their bullpen is – I mean, Williams has really struggled. I don't know if Pete Alonso broke him with that home run in the division or in the wild card series. Luke Weaver should be the closer. Just watching him pitch, the way the ball explodes out of his hands and the way that he really stepped up for them last year, I don't even think it's a question right now that he should be their closer. You got the Orioles, who have been just atrocious. I mean, atrocious. The worst starting pitching. He's been bad since the middle of last year. He hit under 200, I believe, in the second half last year. And he's just, I mean, first couple of games, I think he homered opening day. I think he was off to a decent start, and once again he's kind of lost it. But the big story, their starters have a 6.22 ERA. They are 3/4 of a run worse than the Colorado Rockies, who are 29th in baseball. 6.22, and I think you look at the standings. The Orioles are like 9-13 is not a horrible record. It's not good, but it's not a horrible record. The fact that they've actually been able to, I think they are a worse team right now than their record. In fairness, they are missing Grayson Rodriguez. They're missing Kyle Bradish. They're missing Zach Eflin. You're talking about three, not just good starters, but really frontline starters. So you have that built-in excuse. Obviously, they weren't able to re-sign Corbin Burnes, which was tough. But, I think Burnes, he got what he needed from Arizona. Less taxes. He gets to be closer to home. But the Orioles do not have much in the way of pitching depth right now. And it's just kind of been brutal to watch. I mean, not kind of. It has been really brutal to watch Charlie Morton take them out. And you feel bad because this is a guy that has had a great career. He's one of the good guys. He was coming off a year, that he wasn't that bad. I don't think anyone could have expected, if him to have what does he have? I got to look it up, but it's like a 15-something ERA right now, 10.89. He's 0-5 with a 10.89 ERA, but they're so desperate right now that they, what else are they going to do? Yeah. Ooh. I'm going to think about who's been hot. I mean, I hate to say Aaron Judge, but it is hard to ignore, both what he and Max Fried did this past week. I would have to say Judge, continuing to just carry the Yankees, be ridiculous offensively. Again, pains me to put a Yankee in there, but he's been just absurd. Especially these last few games. He's got, let's see, 9. He's 9 for his last 13. Looks like. No, I didn't do the math right on that. Sorry, he's 9 for his last 17. And he didn't homer in that span, but he's getting on base almost every single time. It seems like it's crazy. Yeah. And let's give a shout out to the two guys who actually won Player of the Week last week, who are also very hot. Fernando Tatis in the National League, continuing to carry the Padres offense, and Dylan Moore of the Mariners. The Mariners need somebody. I mean, they need somebody to be like an offensive spark plug for them. Cal Raleigh leading the league in homers. I should not forget that, for a guy hitting like 230, but he's got 9 homers, and he was accused. 244. Accused of stealing signs. They were a little dust up with him and Barrios this week. Yeah, in Toronto. Don't know if that, I don't know if that was founded or not, but I know he was supposedly relaying them from second base. Yeah. That's a good point. I mean, the Patriots, they know how to do it, and Raleigh doing it not long after he gets a 6-year, $105 million extension. Sometimes guys get big contracts like Soto. It takes them a little time to live up. And then sometimes guys, they're like, I can breathe now. I got the long-term security. And Cal Raleigh, 9 homers. Tommy Edman with 8 home. Of course, the Dodgers would turn Tommy Edman into a power hitter. A lot of those from the right side. Actually, 4 of them. I heard this stat last night. 4 of them this year against the Cubs. Half of his home runs as an LA Dodger are against the Chicago Cubs, which I'm sure makes Cardinal fans very happy, because even though they lose Edman, he's still tormenting the Cubs for them. Yeah. Well, if I had to go by league, I mean, right now, not today, notwithstanding, as they're behind, but Cleveland won 5 in a row. But I got to give it to the New York Mets. I got to give it to the Mets. 6 in a row, potentially, and they're leading 2-0 today, potentially sweeping the Phillies. and potentially being what now? Let's see. They would, if they win today, they will be 5 games up in the NL East on the Phillies. I don't think anybody would have expected, not that people wouldn't have expected the Mets to maybe be in first place, but to be up 5 games on the Phillies
late April.
In late April, and they'd be, well, if the Braves score holds, the Mets score holds, they'd be 8.5 games ahead of the Braves, which was the team that most people probably figured would either win the division or be the stiffest competition for the Mets. So they're rolling, and like I said, they're doing it without much from Juan Soto. I mean, they're getting it from Lindor, they're getting it from their pitching. How about not so much Clay Holmes, but Griff Canning picked him up. He's done a nice job. I think there were a lot of questions about the rotation for the Mets this year, and it's been good. How about Tyler McGill? Got a 109 ERA in 5 starts. I mean, geez, this guy's and Kodai Senga 0.79 ERA. Now, this is not going to hold up, but if these guys can pitch at above their level, boy, the Mets they mean serious business.
Yeah, 11-1 at home right now. They are rewarding people who go to Citi Field.
Yes, and I have not been one of those yet because I know the ticket prices have gone up. But I will say there has been a lot of home cooking this year. I mentioned at the beginning of the show how good the Dodgers and Padres have both been at home. LA is 10-2. San Diego's 12-1 at home. The Mets, as you said, 11-1. Texas is 10-3 at home. The Guardians are 7-1 going into today at home.
Detroit 9-3 at home.
Detroit 9-3 at home. Phillies 9-4. Milwaukee 9-4. I mean, we'd have to do the math, but home teams have been winning a lot this year in baseball. In fact, you look around, there's very few teams that are better on the road this year than at home. In fact, from what I can see, the only team in the American League, and this may make sense, are the Athletics. They're 2-8 at home and 8-5 on the road. And it feels like, well, what's the difference? All of their games are road games anyway. Cubs are half a game better on the road than at home. And and San Francisco's 5-3 at home, 10-6 on the road. So same winning percentage. That's it. Every team otherwise has been better at home this year than on the road. It's interesting because, 2 years ago we had an ALCS where the road team won all 7 games. That was the Astros. 2019, we had a World Series against the Astros where the road team won all 7 games. So people have been wondering, is home field advantage a big thing in baseball? Apparently this year so far through almost not a month, but about 3 weeks or so, it has been.
Yeah. Here's an interesting stat here. Tampa Bay, they've played 19 games at home, 4 on the road. They have not won on the road. They are 0-4 on the road. I would assume that's just Major League Baseball trying to avoid them having to play August games at Steinbrenner Field.
Yeah, they did make some adjustments to the schedule. That was intentional. They had announced that a little while back, knowing that they were going to deal with some weather issues over the summer and getting a hurricane season and all that. So yes, the Rays have that anomaly of having had 19 of their 23 games at Steinbrenner Field. They're winless on the road. They've only played 4 games, but trying to remember those 4 games were who they were even against.
I'm looking at this right now just to see. Oh, well, they are in Arizona right now. Besides that,
Texas, they were swept in Texas. So that's it. And then lost last night to Arizona. So yeah.
My bum ass player of the week. Now, there is a player in Texas that is on an 0-for-41 stretch, but I'm not going to mention him. I'm talking because I want to hate on the American League East teams. I'm going Adley Rutschman.
Peterson, but yeah.
Yeah. I am going Adley Rutschman. He's 2-for-21, 478 slugging, a home run. That average comes out to .095. Can't even get to 100. The O's have also lost 3 out of the last 4, and they are a half a game above the Devil Rays for last place in the American League East. It is not good. It has not been good whatsoever.
Yeah, it is. It's been so ugly. It's been so ugly. I'm going to go with a guy who's the worst average among qualified hitters right now, who just signed a 3-year, $45 million contract in the offseason. Jamer Candelario is 9 for 72 with 2 homers, a WAR of minus .7, OPS 453. The Reds, the reason that they don't contend probably ever is because they spend money on guys who just perform way under standard. And I'm not sure why Candelario would even be worth that much in the first place. Just his career has not been, he's not like some stud who just came over. Actually won a ring. He was actually in 5 games with the Cubs in 2016. He went back to the Cubs. So my mistake. He had signed the contract before last year, but he hit 225 with 20 homers. So and he's just even worse this year right now. And so if Cincinnati, and they put up 24 runs against the Orioles, but this guy's really been nowhere to be found.
Yeah. The Reds, I think I talked about this on the last show. They are the most baseball team of all time.
Yeah.
Like, they just make me think of baseball. They have great American, but I mean, it's very American. Just very, I love the branding for the Reds as well. Everything has the stitches, like baseball stitches on it. It's just perfect for me. And it's red and white. That's all you need. You don't need anything else from the Reds. Even though their former owner was just a complete piece of shit, horrible human being. I'm not even going to say her name because she was just a real piece of shit. But yeah, love the Reds though. I love the branding. Bum ass team of the week. I think the Rockies are just going to keep. They're the honorary for the rest of the year. They have just been awful. They are 4-18 right now. Mm-hmm. So bad. But I'm going with the Kansas City Royals. This team was expected to make that next step this year. And it's just a struggle. It's been, they dropped 6 to the Yankees and Tigers. They played a 4-game set with the Tigers. They won one of them. And then they got swept by the Yankees. They needed a walk-off to beat the Rockies as well, the honorary all-time bum-ass team of the week.
Right.
Salvi is 2 for 20 with a 293 OPS right now. Pasquantino, 3 for 21, 7 strikeouts, 372 OPS, and Jonathan India, 5 for 22 with a 534 OPS. That's not what you want to see even early in the year from a young team who is coming off a playoff appearance, who you were really expecting a lot more, and in a weak AL Central.
Yes. I think they've been a disappointment, and any team that isn't at least in the mix in the AL Central should probably be ashamed of itself. Mm-hmm. My bum-ass team, I think I would have to go with the Phillies. Started out great. Started out 8-3. Since then, they've gone 5-8. They've lost 3 straight. They, split 4 they lost 2 or 3 in St. Louis, split 4 with the Giants, which isn't bad. And they did take 2 or 3 from the Marlins, but they lost that last game. They're on the verge of maybe being swept by the Mets. They have not gotten good starting pitching. Wheeler has not had quite the year we're used to. Nola struggled. Christopher Sanchez, they said no MRI on him, at least for now, but forearm tightness. That's ominous. They're without Ranger Suarez. I get that. They just don't, but they look like a team who had a kind of like the Orioles, not quite in the same vein, obviously, but there's a window of opportunity here. You have Dave Dombrowski as the GM. They did not do much at all, really, in the offseason. They brought in Jesus Luzardo, which was a nice pickup, and they added Max Kepler. But it feels like they needed to do more. And now they're slumping. And if they do get swept by the Mets, as we said, they're going to be, 5 games out already? They're going to be right above 500 after a great start. They're not drinking that same juice that the Eagles did, apparently.
No. Well, the Eagles started very bad as well. If we remember correctly. Well, very bad in the expectation and just how badly their season ended the year before. They started out slow and then they hit the gas. So I'm not maybe this is just a Philly thing. I don't know. Maybe they get in their own heads, or there is a lot of pressure on every Philly team to win, just like Boston and New York and all that stuff. Yeah, Philly, got to pick it up a little bit. I think you definitely want to see more out of them. Surprise player of the week. I'm going with the D-backs. I'm going with Pavin Smith.
Oh, Pavin Smith, yeah.
Pavin Smith, I'm sorry. 3 homers, batting 444, over 1600, almost 1700 OPS right now. The fourth place Diamondbacks, who are 14-9, and they're 2.5 games back of first right now. It is a crowded NL West, and at least you don't have to worry about the Rockies.
Yeah, they won't finish in last. Pavin Smith had a 3-homer, 8 RBI game, I think it was last year in September on a Sunday night against the Astros in a avoid the sweep game for Arizona. He's been fantastic. I think it's part of the reason they felt they could let Christian Walker go. They brought in Josh Naylor, but in terms of having that thumper at the top of the lineup, and Naylor's obviously done a great job already replacing Walker, who's gotten off to a slow start. Really like Pavin Smith. I'm going to just throw some love to a former Oriole who torched them this past week with a 6-hit game, Austin Wynns, who in his starts this year, 3 of his last 4 starts, he's only had 4 starts in 12 days, but he's made the most of them. He's hitting .455 with a couple of homers. He's 10 for 22. So my bum of the week's on the Reds, but my surprise player of the week is also on the Reds. I gotta throw some love to Austin Wynns, who spent 2 years, 3 seasons with a really bad Orioles team. So he's getting to at least play out of the bay. I mean, this is a guy that's also played on the Rockies last year. Yeah. He was a Dodger for a minute in 2023, but mostly been on bad teams. But he had the day of his life on Sunday in that 24-2 rout by the Bengals over the Ravens. Yeah.
Yeah. What happened there? I mean, what I know like how baseball is when there's routes, and it's once you get to like 10, if it's 10-2, it's like, all right, who gives a shit? Put in the position players. Let's get fun. Got to have some self-respect though, right? Do the Orioles have any self-respect right now?
No. They have none. They have none. Again, I think this is a team that really needs to capitalize on the window they have, and it seems like they were a worse team last year than they were the year before. They're certainly worse this year than they've been the last 2 years. It feels like it's going in the wrong direction right now.
Who do you want to see them go out and get? I mean, are there pieces that you would like to see them add?
I mean, it's easy to say starting pitching. That's always the default, but I don't know. I mean, they tried to get Morton. They tried the whole, let's get a veteran guy. Let's give the young guys like Cade Povich a chance. I think Sugano has been a nice pickup. He's been kind of like the one guy who's been solid. I would love to see them get also like a spark plug. They really don't have like a true leadoff hitter. I don't know if they're going to keep Cedric Mullins or if he's a guy that they would potentially dangle as trade bait if they go into more of a seller mode this year. But I'd love to see them they need a guy like a Tommy Edman. They need a guy who's kind of versatile, who's a spark plug, who gets on base. Because I don't know if they can fix their starting pitching right now without those healthy guys. I don't know if there's a guy out there that's just suddenly going to come in. I mean, the fate of their pitching relies on, how good these guys are medically. I'd love to see them just get a guy that can get on base. And I don't know if that's the problem with, Rutschman and even Gunnar Henderson, who's been off to a slow start this year. They rely too much on the home run. They're a little better at it this year, but they don't hit really well for average. Their best hitter in terms of average is Ramon Urias. It's hitting .319, and O'Hearn and Mullins have been good. And then it's a big drop off to the 240s, 230s, 220s with Kjerstad, O'Neill, Mountcastle. Henderson's at .213, Holiday's at .213, and as you mentioned, Rutschman, terrible stretch that he's in. He's at 200. Westberg's at 187. They need a guy that can get on base and spark them and can steal bases, can run, can create some havoc. That's who I'd love to see them get.
Yeah. All right. Let's just move ahead to this week of baseball. We're gonna start in Philadelphia. The Chicago Cubs. I mean, it feels like now almost every series with the Cubs must watch right now. And maybe it's just the quality of opponent that we're seeing from them right now. Phillies Cubs, 2:20 on Friday. What are we looking to see in this series?
Well, a guy that we didn't even mention as far as, big time player of the week or top, hot hitter, Kyle Tucker. I mean, I want to see if he can keep raking because he's been carrying that Cubs offense. This is a big deal for the Phillies. I mean, especially if they end up getting swept by the Mets. Got the Cubs coming in. This is like a get right moment for the Phillies. And if not, they just risk falling farther back. Can the Cubs continue to play these types of games and win? I don't know. But they'll, like you said, they've been tested. They'll have played the Dodgers 7 times this year. They'll have played Arizona. They faced some good competition this year already.
Orioles, Tigers.
Well, actually, I think this is a series of like the Tigers are kind of coming into what the Orioles have been. They're kind of hitting their stride and getting close to where that window is open. And you have, I don't know if Skubal's going to pitch in that series, but I would imagine if he does, you're going to have arguably the best pitcher in the AL against the worst rotation. Also, Gleyber Torres is on the Tigers now. He is a lifelong Orioles killer. So if they can contain him, they might have a shot. But if they keep pitching the way they're pitching, the Tigers are going to steamroll
them. Jackson Jobe goes Friday, and Skubal goes Sunday.
And it doesn't matter who goes for the Orioles, does it?
Probably not. Probably not. Mets, Nats.
Yeah, if the Nats want to mean business, this is a series for them that you figure at some point the Mets have got to cool off a little bit. The Nats, we don't really talk a lot about the Nats. They're 10-13. They're still at a point where their season is not, certainly not spiraling away.
Yeah.
And this is kind of their moment now, because if they want to have any chance of being in the division race, not that we expect them to, this is a series they got to have.
I think this Nationals team can at least be a competitive team. I think we've talked about it. They're frisky. They can be very frisky and maybe spoil a little bit of the Mets' magic.
Yeah,
especially off a sweep of the Phillies, them going to Washington. I could definitely see them maybe taking 2 out of 3 and slowing the momentum down a little bit.
Yeah, I could too. I mean, pitching wise, Mackenzie Gore got right against the Orioles, and Jake Irvin's been really good over this past year plus for the Nats. And then you got Mitchell Parker with a 1.39. I mean, the Nats bring pretty solid starting pitching into the mix, and that's without Josiah Gray. So, yeah, that would be the key for them to win this series, is to continue to get good starting pitching.
Blue Jays, Yankees. Yankees, you got to pick up some. The Red Sox are hot on their tail right now.
Yeah, I think the Jays are going in the wrong direction. They're kind of coming back to earth. This is a series where they got to really catch themselves. The Yankees are only 14-10 going into today. So it's not like they're unbeatable and running away with the division. But the Jays are starting to slip.
Nothing interesting here. Angels and Twins.
Oh, God, the Twins just... I hate watching them. I hate reading about them. A team that always underachieve. 2 teams really that always underachieve.
Yeah, everyone knows this. Los Angeles just goes to the Angels. Los Angeles, Angels. It translates to the Angels.
The Angels. They're the Angels of Angels, yeah.
I just have no interest in the Angels whatsoever. Mike Trout is just trapped there. I hate them for that. Yeah. I mean, obviously he signed a big contract and that was his choice, but he's just trapped, and I would like to see him play playoff baseball at one point in his career. Yeah. True playoff baseball.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, he's been off to a slow start, understandably, that this is a guy that, coming off the injuries, and just to see him back playing at all is good, but yeah, sad to see him just trapped in this prison that is the Angels.
Yeah. Astros Royals rematch of the
2015. Yeah, that was the first burst onto the scene year for the Astros, but it was the year the Royals won the World Series. The Royals were 6 outs, down 4 runs, 6 outs from being eliminated, came back, won Game 4, took Game 5, and we know the rest is history for them. Yeah, the Astros are starting to play better. This is like that moment now you look and you're like, oh, they're 12-11. They're only 2 games out. They're the only team in that division with a plus run differential. It's crazy. Texas 14-9 has a minus 11 differential. And the Royals, like, same thing. They're not out of it in the Central by any means, 4.5 back. This is kind of like a prove it moment for the Royals, and then this is a moment where you're like, shoot, if the Astros win this series, it's like, oh, now we got to start to think about it because we want to count them out, we want to count them out, we want to count them out, and they never go away.
Yeah. Red Sox Guardians. I think this is. I mean, they saw Texas the first series of the year, but this is really their first test, I think.
Yeah, Guardians have been hot. They do it without scoring a ton of runs, but Guardians are 7-1 at home going into today. Red Sox 6-7 on the road. They have 116 runs scored, 116 runs against. Red Sox for the most part, yeah, they're 3 games over, but they've been pretty average. If they can keep the Guardians if they can keep that offense at bay, I mean, to me, anytime the Red Sox can keep the opponent off the board, they're going to have a shot. To me, it's all about their pitching.
Brewers Cardinals in St. Louis.
Yeah, Brewers got off to that miserable start, but they're 13-11 now. They are scoring a lot of runs. In fact, they are tied. It looks like tied for second most runs in the National League. So it was not so much the offense that was the problem. It was the pitching early on, but they've righted the ship. And, Cardinals, they had a nice start, but it's kind of 2 teams maybe going in opposite directions.
Yeah. Reds, Rockies.
Yeah.
Woof. Yeah.
Will the Rockies set the record this year for most losses? They're in a division where they should be getting pounded by all their division opponents. This would be one of those series that the Rockies have to win to sort of like rack up just enough wins to avoid being the White Sox of last year.
When we're in like the last couple weeks of September, we could look back on this series and be like, this is how they avoided it.
Right.
Just avoided the record. That series against the Reds in fucking April.
Yeah.
Braves Diamondbacks. I think that's going to be a lot more of an entertaining series than we expect. There's a few other big series this weekend. I think that is an important one.
Yeah, I think the Braves, like, they have to figure out a way to get back into this thing. They kind of chipping away. Their bullpen hasn't been very good. The Diamondbacks, they're like the Cubs. I mean, they're just a riot. All their games are fun. They're high scoring. I think the Braves, each passing series, are feeling more and more pressure. No team that has ever started 0-7 and made the playoffs, which is what the Braves are facing. Remember, the Braves this year started on the West Coast, 2 series against NL West teams, swept by San Diego in 4 games, swept by LA in 3 games. So, they got to get one of these because they just, otherwise they're just going to get completely run over by the National League West.
Yeah. Marlins, Mariners. I think these teams feel kind of the same to me.
Yeah. It's because of the name also. Like,
maybe that could
name
be
and it's a weird matchup. Just
they're in weird spots, I think, as franchises as well. Because the Marlins aren't a bad baseball team by any means right now.
Right. No, they're 11-12, and they've got some exciting young talent. You could thank the Orioles for them having Connor Norby and Kyle Stowers, and all they had to give up was a minor league pitcher masquerading as a major leaguer named Trevor Rogers. By the way, another guy shout out who had a great 14 strikeout start, Max Meyer. 14 strikeouts.
He was one of my nominees for Player of the Week.
He's been really good. Sanoha had a memorable game, and they beat the Phillies the other day. Tough news on Griffin Conine. Met his dad, Jeff, who used to play for the Orioles. His son, Griffin, is going to be out for a while with a dislocated shoulder. That's a shame. But, yeah, the Marlins playing better ball, and it's the longest plane ride in the league between Seattle and Miami. So a lot of travel there.
Yep.
And the Mariners, I mentioned Dylan Moore. They're just, nothing. They're so perfectly average. 12-11, even run differential, just like the Red Sox. 8-5 at home, 4-6 on the road. 12-11. They're just, I don't know what they are. I don't know. It's got to be more frustrating to be a fan of a team that's constantly in the middle than at least a team that's bad. Because the team that's bad, when they get good, they're going to get really good, probably.
Yeah. I was talking about, I met one of my neighbors, and he's a Colts fan. We were just talking about it. And we were like, yeah, it sucks being a Colts fan right now because we're 16th pick in the draft, 15th, something like that. And that's what it is every year. It is the Chris Ballard thing to not be good enough to make the playoffs, but be good enough to fuck yourself out of a high draft pick.
Right.
And that's
Miami
what the
Dolphins.
Mariners are. That's kind of what the Marlins have been. They haven't been awful by any means, but they haven't been playoff material. You know, I mean, they went in 2020. Did they go in 21? They didn't go in 21,
No,
did
they went in 23. They were bounced in two by the Phillies, but I've seen the Miami Dolphins have been perfectly average. The Marlins being average would be a huge step up. Really, just given how bad they've been, every year, basically. I know they had that nice year in 23. What is it with the Marlins, too? Skip Schumacher's manager of the year. He's gone a couple of years later. Joe Girardi was manager of the year in 06. He's gone at the end of that year. They're different owners, but just that tells me a lot. I mean, Davey Johnson back in the day for the Orioles he left. He was manager of the year. I forget if it was 96 or 97, but he was gone after 2 years. And guess what? After 97, the Orioles didn't make the playoffs again for 15 years. So
yeah.
These franchises, I mean, it's one's an accident, two's a trend. Chris Berman used to say it all the time. I don't know. I mean, Clayton McCullough, I didn't even know, this is bad on me, but Clayton McCullough is the name of the Marlins manager. First time I'd heard is I just came across a clip, like McCullough talks about so-and-so. I said, McCullough? I was like, oh yeah, that's right. It's not Skip Schumacher anymore.
I forgot they lost 100 games last year.
They did.
I completely forgot they lost 100
They
games
were the franchise
year.
That in 2015, mid-season, they brought Dan Jennings, I think was his name. They brought the GM down to be the manager. It was so bizarre.
Was that a Derek Jeter thing?
Well, no, because that was the year after Jeter retired, so I don't know how involved he was with the Marlins then. He may have been. But it was just so strange, and I don't think it was very well received. It just looked odd. He looked like a general manager wearing a baseball uniform.
Yeah. It's so funny. Sometimes you see, like, I'll see Craig Breslow talking to the team, and obviously he used to, he was a pitcher, but pitchers are always a little different than regular players. They're a little psycho, and he's talking to the team, and he's inserting curse words it's clearly not in his vocabulary anymore. Like, he's not a ball player, he's a general manager, and it just sounds so unnatural. Right. It sounds so. I just love listening to those guys trying to fit in with this new generation of ball players, and they just don't. They don't fit whatsoever. Rays Padres. Padres, really good opportunity to maybe jump more ahead.
Yeah. Again, like when you're going good, you got to take the series against the teams you're supposed to beat. It's a long trip out there. As we said, the Padres at home this year have been virtually unbeatable. They've lost one game at home this year. And so they got to keep it rolling. That starting pitching for the Padres, Nick Pivetta, you got to love seeing him with like a 1-something ERA. They need somebody to really step up because Joe Musgrove is out all year. And he honestly, to me, has been one of their best pitchers over the last few years. The bullpen, that back end of the bullpen, the Rays will get a chance to see Jason Adam, who I believe they traded him. I don't know if he was a free agent. I think they traded him to San Diego. He's been arguably the best setup man in the league. Robert Suarez has not given up a run this year. The big thing last year with Suarez was he was being overused. Mike Shildt has been able to manage these guys' workload, and what a difference it makes. Even though they've been winning these games, they win close games. He hasn't overworked these back end guys, which is huge because I think they were overworked last year. Tough break for Luis Arias. He's now on the concussion IL. Had that grisly collision with Mauricio Dubon, but the starting pitching has been really good for the pot. Well, shouldn't say really good because Dylan Cease still has a 6 ERA, but he pitched well against Houston. Vasquez had a really rough start, but he's still under 4. And then Pivetta and Michael King have been fantastic. So the Padres, especially against a team like the Rays, score a ton of runs. Starting pitching needs to step up. They need to keep the Rays off the board.
Adam was traded to San Diego in exchange for Dylan Lesko, Homer Bush Jr., and J.D. Gonzalez.
Don't know any of those guys, but I remember Homer Bush Sr. He was like he won a ring, I think, with the Yankees. He was the ultimate pinch runner extraordinaire late in the year. Love that name. Homer Bush. He didn't hit a lot of homers in his career, but so
Great
hopefully
name.
It works out better for Homer Bush Jr. But I remember the OG Homer Bush, who although he played 7 years in the league, only hit 11 homers.
Man, wow. White Sox Athletics.
Oh
Boy, this one I might watch this just because of how funny it's gonna be.
Spite watch it, yeah. Yeah, these are two teams. Like, it's probably more important for the White Sox. They're 5-18. They want to get away from talk about breaking their own record right now.
Yeah.
5-18 is a very rough start. And again, we talk about, like, if you're going to avoid making dubious history, you need to beat the teams that you need to beat. And the Athletics would be one. Now, the Athletics are 10-13. They've been off to a nice start. We know Tyler Soderstrom's kind of been carrying them. They spent some money on guys like Severino and Leclerc. This is just like a desperation series for both teams. Like, the White Sox don't want to fall deeper into a hole. The A's are like, if we're going to have any chance to be halfway decent this year, we got to beat the White Sox. It could be fun to just watch the level of hustle based on desperation for both of these teams.
Yeah. Pirates Dodgers.
Oh. Well, is Skenes pitching? That's all I have.
He could be seeing his future. Yes, he is. He's going to see Yamamoto. He is going to pitch against his future team. Skenes, I want to talk about that GQ. Did you see the GQ thing he did with Livy Dunn?
No.
I actually do it. My aunt gave it to me. She, for some reason, still gets GQ. It's Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck is on the cover. Mm-hmm. It's a little weird. Maybe I just don't read GQ, so I don't really understand the vibe that they're going for. But I just want to show this on. I don't know what she's wearing. I don't know what he's wearing. I don't know what the hell's going on here. This is just. I mean, this might be a little more normal than that first image.
Yeah.
I'm just dreading all the extra media attention. If he's getting this media attention with the Pirates, imagine how much he's going to get with the Dodgers or the Yankees or even the Red Sox.
It seems inevitable. He's only going to be a Pirate for X amount of years. He's got a little, every time I look at him, he looks a little bit like Chris Bryant if you take the mustache off.
Remember. He does. He's got a little Chris Bryant look to him.
Or Chris Bryant. I mean, another injury, just making the Rockies look so much worse. But for Skenes, I mean, this is like every year there's a guy and he's tearing through the league. You're a big shot superstar pitcher. You want to really be talked about as a GOAT, you put up a big performance against the Dodgers. Now they may get shut out. He may lose a game 1-0 to Yamamoto, and it's not going to be on Skenes. And we won't say, oh, he's a fraud. But if he goes out there and gets lit up by the Dodgers, I mean, I don't want to say, oh, let's just crucify the guy over one bad start. But like if you really want to be considered, you got to at least pitch decent. You got to at least throw up a QS, throw up a quality start against the Dodgers. I mean, the Pirates, they last year I believe they took a series in Pittsburgh. They were swept in LA by the Dodgers. And the year before, if I'm not mistaken, or was it was either 22 or 23. I think it was 22, the year the Dodgers won 111 games. The Pirates went 5-1 against LA. So they've always been able to kind of match up okay, but nobody takes the Pirates seriously. The only thing worth watching with them this weekend, like we said, is Paul Skenes' start. I mean, they're 9-15. They're clearly not going anywhere this year. I just want to see Skenes put up a good start in that series.
Yeah, it's Keller. Saturday is going to be Keller versus Sasaki. Jeez. And then Sunday, the 4:00 game is Falter and Glasnow.
Can't wait to see him. Glasnow, former Pirate, but I can't wait to see the betting lines on. Well, I'll be curious to see the betting lines on the Skenes Yamamoto game. Obviously, Dodgers will be favored, but it won't be like a huge number. But then you'll probably jump to like 250, 300. Those other two games.
And then 2010 World Series rematch, Rangers-Giants.
Right. Rangers-Giants. They were the first ever interleague game. I remember it. It was a Thursday night in 1997. I remember watching it. It was a big deal. Giants beat the Rangers, I think, in extra innings in that game. They were in the 2010 World Series. These are two teams that are – and how can we forget? Bruce Bochy.
Yes. Bruce Bochy rematch.
Yes. Is the game in San Francisco?
Revenge series. It is in San Francisco. That's going to be pretty cool.
That will be cool. I know they went there a couple of years ago, so I don't know how. I mean, it won't be quite the novelty, but anytime you see Bruce Bochy managing,
well, interleague is the novelty is worn off because of Rob Manfred and his money grubbing little hands that he's
makes no sense. But Texas, like we said, 14-11 and 14-9, they're in first place, but they have a -11 run differential. Like they haven't pulled away at all. And the Giants, I just want to see if they can keep their good start going. I mean, they're coming back to earth a little, but they're still 15-9. So this is kind of, two, I don't know if I'd say overachieving teams or surprise teams. Yeah, I'd say surprise more for the Giants. We expect Bruce Bochy, every time he wins a World Series, to be good 2 years later. So this is where the Rangers are at. And the Giants can certainly appreciate that.
Rob Manfred will retire at the end of 2029. I did forget about that.
Yeah, probably after a 4-year lockout.
Last year. Yeah, for real. Hopefully we'll get a commissioner who actually listens to the fans. When it comes to certain things, I think the pitch clock, people really like the pitch clock. So it's not like he only does stupid things. But I think the interleague stuff, the scheduling, the streaming, hopefully we'll get a commissioner that will maybe roll back on some of that stuff because like the Apple TV thing, Red Sox Guardians is on Apple TV on Friday night. I have no interest in Apple TV. I am not going to subscribe to, I will be pirating that. I'm saying it right now. I will be pirating it because I do not want to give Apple TV any more of my money.
That's fair.
Or just Apple in general. They already slow down my cell phone. Just so I will buy a new one. And I refuse to get a new one, even though I've cracked everything on it. It's not good. All right. Well, we have another great week of baseball upon us. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Go check out the guys at Spring Hill Sports. They will be releasing an episode either today or tomorrow. And we will see you next week.